Okay, hello. Welcome to our seventh lesson. Today we're going to see two masterpieces, the metaphysics and the categories. Especially the last one was a book who blew out my mind some years ago when I first encountered it and I started reading it. This is something that you need to know, especially when your profession will be to educate other people into things concerned to language. And in my eyes, this book, especially categories, it's a must in your careers. So I'm very, very glad and very happy to be me in this side to present it to you. So first things first, metaphysics. We're going to deal today with book Zeta. Okay, and there's a very known phrase which is that, which is spoken of in many ways. To on legetai polahos in ancient Greek. I say again because it's not that easy as it looks. That thing which is spoken of in many ways. Okay, it's all about the kinds of being, the things that exist, the things that are at this very moment, here and now. Okay, the things that are said in many ways. And we will see some definitions of beings that Aristotle gives us. For example, accidental being, a man is musical, a musician builds, or a white man is musical. What he's trying to tell us is that it is an accident that a man is musical, or it is an accident that the musician builds, or it is an accident that the white man is musical. The next one is per se being. Those things that are said to have been, which are revealed in the patterns of predication. Let's see the examples. Saying that the man is getting better, or that the man is walking, or cutting, or so on, makes no difference. So we're saying that someone is being by saying that he or she is walking, or cutting, or walked, or cut, or walks at this very moment, or cuts at this very moment. What he's trying to tell us is that by the pattern of predication, we're saying that the thing or the man or the woman or the she or the he we're talking about is being, exists. Being for assertion or denial. For example, Socrates is musical, or Socrates is not white. Whereas by saying that Socrates is musical, we are asserting that that human being who is called Socrates is musical. Or by saying that Socrates is not white, we're saying that that very human being whose name is Socrates is not white. We say some truth, or we say something false about this or that person. Being and that which is. All right. it is about potentiality and actuality. When we talk about it, we are reporting potentiality and actuality. Let's see. Hermes is in the stone. We see the stone there. The stone is there. We can touch it, we can feel it. And the actual stone that is there is not yet the Hermes that is sculpted out of this stone, but the Hermes lies within. Half the line is in the line. Again, the half the line is within the line. The line is the actual thing that we see and touch. Half the line is potentially within the line. Or corn is corn even when it is not ripe. For example, when we hold a seed of corn, we can say this is corn. Or a seed of orange, we can say this is an orange tree. The orange tree lies within the seed. It is potentially there, not actually there. All right. Next one, we can see below some of the terms that were used in regards to substance. So I must say that there was some controversy in ancient time about the translation. There was some problems when the scholars transcribed the terms ousia into the Latin substance. But this is not our concern, but just for reference, you see the different terms. So ousia, hypokaimenon. Hypokaimenon is, how can I say? The translation would be that which lies within, that which sustains the thing that is. Substance, which is the one that we're going to use all along. Entity was a translation or used in the medieval times. Entity, and what it was to be, that thing that looks like some tongue twister. What it was to be the thing. This is the literal translation of the term that Aristotle uses. And to on, the thing that is, or the things that are, the things that are in existence in this moment. Let's see the next picture. So our main concern now is to focus on the substance, and the very question, or the most important question, is what is it? The esteem. What is it? This is the questions that concerns mainly in substance. So that which is will be spoken of as follows. So different entities are subdivided into independent and substantial, and dependent and non-substantial. Within the independent and substantial, we have one universal second-class being, two individual first-class beings. We will discuss about it later. Within the dependent and non-substantials, we find three universal second-class accident, and 4, individual first-class accident. These ones specifically we're going to discuss in the next lesson, lesson number 8. Okay, for the time being, we will focus on the independent and substantial entities. So first class being substance or substance of the first class. It says it admits definition of species and genus. Let's see. Socrates is either man and an animal. Okay, we have the possibility to say that Socrates is a man because Socrates lies within the species man, and at the same time man lays within the species, within the genus animal. Okay, another characteristic is it receives opposites but not all together. For example, Socrates is white but not black and white at the same time. Okay, it is white, or he is white, or he is black, but not all together at the same time. One thing regarding to first class substance, the first class substances are the, in strict sense, the things that are the things that we can touch, the things that we can see, the things that we can grab with our hands, the things that we can smell. Okay, the very things, the first class substances are the things, the real things that exist in our world. So we can say, for example, that Juan, Pedro, this table, that tree, that dog, these are the first class beings, the first class substances. Okay, I want to make this crystal clear before we move to the next kind of substances. So now second class being or second class substances, substantial predicate, it responds to T esteem straightforward. For example, Socrates is a man. Okay, it regards to the substantial predicate. Socrates is a man. Pablo is a man. So we go straight forward to the species. All right. For example, we can say, what is red? TST, or what is it? What is red? Red is a color. The question will always lead you to the substance of the things we're talking about. Straightforward. Okay, Socrates is a man. Okay, so first class substance and second class substance. Second class substances are what we call the universals. Man, animals, plants, for example, or what is a shark? It's a fish. Fish is the universal, is a second class substance. And this shark that is swimming down in the sea, and I can touch it and I can feel it. And the one that I am afraid of being beaten by this shark, this is the first class substance. Okay, so what is a shark? esteem. What is a shark? It's a fish. Big shark there swimming in the sea is first class substance. And fish would be, which comes from out of shark, and it's predicated from that shark, is the second class substance. All right, it's high time to make a link to our next book in question today, the categories, talegomena, the things that are said, talegomena. And we're going to focus not in the whole book, but in the first part, which is called antepredicamenta. All right, let's see. Homonym, two or more things whose names are the same, but their definition differing in substance are called homonyms. There is a grammar mistake there. For example, fall regarding to autumn, and fall to go down on the ground. So fall and fall are homonyms because their names are the same, but their definition are different. Star and star. Star as a celestial body, the one that we see out in the sky, and star, a main character in a play. Their names are the same, but the definition are different. Also, sometimes a mannequin and a man itself are both called man, but their definition are quite different. All right, sometimes we call a mannequin a man by analogy, but we know it's not a man, it's artificial. Synonym is when two or more things whose names are different, but their definitions do not differ in substance, are called synonyms. For example, a cloak and a raincoat. A cloak and a raincoat, their names are different, but their definitions are the same. Substantially, they are the same. The chemists and pharmacy, we see different names, same definition, and same substance. The subway and the underground again. Also, a man and a donkey are synonyms as they both fall into the genus animal. For example, we can say Socrates is an animal, and the Pink Panther is an animal. Okay, so they are synonyms as they both fall in the same genus, in the same definition. Substantially, they are the same. Paronym. A paronym is a word that is derived from another word and as such bears the same root. In a broader sense, paronyms may refer to words that are linked by a similarity of form. They are also known as B-side word. B-side word is the literal translation of paronym, the Greek term. All right, so we have children, that is a noun, and childish, that is an adjective. Bravery, noun, and brave, that springs from bravery, that is an adjective. So most of the paronyms, as you see, are adjectives that springs from a noun. Courtesy and courteous, mathematics and mathematician. All right. Let's see the next picture. Okay. This is the canonic list of categories. Technically, they are predicates or meta-predicates. All except ousia, substance, are non-substantials predicates and therefore dependent. Each one of them conveys inquiry enforcement. Inquiry enforcement means that each one of them works as a question. It questions you. For example, let's see the list of the 10 categories. Substance, quantity, quality, relation, location, time, position, possession, action, and passion. So every time that we say something about someone or about something, we are predicating one of these categories there. We say something regarding to substance or quantity or quality or relation or location, time or position, possession, action, or passion. All right. Today, we're not going to focus on the 9 following categories, but we would focus only on substance. Let's see. Type of predicates, synonymic predicates. Socrates, this very man here, first substance, first class substance, is a man. So there we have a name, man, which is universal, and plus the definition. Also known as substantial predicate. Its genus and definition can also be predicated by extension. Let's see. Socrates is a man. Man is a rational animal. Therefore, Socrates is a rational animal. Good. So we can say Socrates is a rational animal by extension, because rational animal is the definition of man. Socrates is a man. Man is an animal. Animal is a substance. Socrates is a substance. So again, by extension, we can say that Socrates is a substance. Paronymic predicate. Socrates is grammarian. There is no name and no definition. To the question, τι εστίν, what is it? It doesn't come that Socrates is grammarian, because the fact that Socrates is grammarian is because there is Socrates is a particular case of grammar. He's got a particular knowledge of that science that is grammar. Next one, you see Socrates is white. It's because it's an accident. Socrates is a particular case of whiteness. Socrates is grammarian is an accident. Socrates is a particular case of grammar, or he holds a knowledge of grammar, but this is an accident. It could have been something else. He could have been Socrates is a carpenter, or Socrates is a teacher, or Socrates is a musician. All right. It's just an accident. It could have been something else. Okay. You see, when we say Socrates is white, it doesn't follow that Socrates is a color. When I ask the question, what is Socrates? Socrates is not a color, and therefore Socrates is quality. Now, Socrates is a man, and man is a substance. A man is a rational animal, and rational animal, substance. All right. Homonymic predicate. This body there, this white body there is white. So by homonymia, we say that this white is white, or something like that. So the same name, white and white, but no definition at all. I don't say what that body is. I just say that this white body is white. All right. We see the elements of predication. The genus, specific different. The genus we were talking about, the genus are mostly the second-class substances. Second-class substances, man, for example. Socrates is a rational animal. Okay, this is the model. Socrates is a rational animal. So animal would be the genus. Rational would be a specific difference. So a specific difference plus genus makes the definition, the substantial definition, that the one that responds to the esteem, to what is it. Okay, particularity and accident. Accident, okay, we talk about it a little bit. Accident is the particular case of this or that thing, but we're not going to talk about it anymore today. And particularity is the particular feature that the species have. For example, the capacity of man to laugh. The one and only animal on nature that is capable of laughing is man, and the one that's capable of neighing is the horse. Okay, but again, we will save these two for later, not for today. All right. All right, so next you need to read categories ante predicamenta, just in case. Categories, talegomena, ante predicamenta, homonym, synonym, and paronym. And metaphysics, book Zeta. All right. This reading will be very useful to start the new assignment. Regarding to the new assignment, it will be separated in 3 different stages that will correspond to lessons 7, 8, and 9. Okay, every time we start a new lesson, I will have some update on the assignment, adding some other questions or tasks that you need to work out. All right, I think it's been sufficient for today. And remember, if you need some help, some assistance, I look forward to hear from you in the queries box. And good luck with the new assignment, because I think it is the longest so far, and it will be the longest of our course. See you next class. Bye-bye.